bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. I don't drink wine. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. That's right. Today is Monday, March 6th. 65 days into the new year, just 300 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Wow. I'm ready. Are you? Tonight, the man, the forbidden archaeologist, Michael Cremo is here. He is back. Oh, man, I just love it when Michael is on the show. We get our knowledge on some education about to go down. Tomorrow night, Andrew Collins, live from the UK. Wednesday night, Marla Martinson is here, the Hollywood matchmaker, and other things. Marla's going to be here on Wednesday. Thursday night is a very, very special Fader night because it is the 20th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights. And we have Dr. Lynn Katay with us. And John Rappaport with his No More Fake Newsroom. How cool is that? So that's our week here. 4 great nights, starting with tonight, this Monday, with Michael Cremo. All right, follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Facebook, YouTube, everything is Fade to Black, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, Jimmy Church Radio, whatever. Go follow, like, and subscribe. Go over to the website and click on those 3 little buttons right there. The sandbox in Twitter. Apparently, there was a little Twitter tweet deck flare-up over the weekend that maybe TweetDeck wasn't going to continue. And there you go. But no, TweetDeck is here. It's fine. Man, I woke up and I was like, what? TweetDeck? No, TweetDeck. We can't do this show. Man. So there you go. All right. TweetDeck is fine. Everything is fine. Sandbox is fine. Hashtag F2B. That's what you want to do. Hashtag F2BQ is questions or comments for the show tonight for myself or Michael Cremo. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Libsyn. We have over 600 archive shows over there. We have custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms for just $2 a month. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the podcast banner. If you would like to become a member, right, and you want to be a member of us, the family, the Fadernauts, click on the membership tab. It's right there on the top of the website. You can go over, you can become a Fadernaut for free. It's that simple. Just click on it and become a Fadernaut. If you want to get commercial-free downloads, commercial-free, by the way, MP3s that have not only the commercials removed, but have been, all of the audio is optimized, the levels clean, no clicks, buzz, nothing. Really, 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 really supreme audio. So if you want that, you can do that month to month. You can do that for the year. This month, if you subscribe for the year, become a member for the year, This month, we are giving away a Tascam DM100 Mark III digital recorder, $300 retail value. All right, that's what we're going to give away this month. Next month, we're going to give away a Studio Dome full sound system, right? So we're going to give that away next month. And every month, we're going to have really cool things to give away. Just subscribe for a year. It's that simple, all right? And while you're over on the website, don't forget to check out all of our sponsors. Life Change Tea, getthetea.com. Ronnie McMullen's going to be here in a couple of minutes to hang out with us like he does at the beginning of every month. Right there, Life Change Tea, getthetea.com. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Drinking it right now. The new, darker, friendlier roast. Oh, man, so good. I swear. That's life-changing coffee by River Moon. And, of course, Studio Dome speakers. Just click on their banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo codes right there in the banners for discounts and free shipping because you're a fade or not. Contact in the Desert is coming up May 19th through the 22nd in Joshua Tree, California. Tickets and info are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Speakers include this year George Norrie, Graham Hancock, Jacques Vallée, Robert Bivol, Robert Schock, David Wilcock, Corey Good, Jim Mars, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Richard Dolan, Andrew Collins. Andrew's going to be on the show tomorrow night. Linda Moulton Howe, Whitley Strieber, David Sereda. We're going to try to get as many of the speakers on Fade to Black before Contact in the Desert, like we do every year because it's such a huge event and they have the best. So there you go. All of the information you need is over on our website. We are also giving away passes. There is one entry per person. It's very simple to do. Just go over to the website, click on the contest banner. The pass is non-transferable, everybody. It's not transferable. I know it's really cool to win. It is. Everybody wants to win. But if you win and you can't go, well, enjoy the fact that you won and then let us know so we can go and draw another name. All right? Good luck to everybody and to all of you Fadernauts, and we'll see you at Contact in the Desert. Let's get the show cracking. Today, happy birthday to Guitar God. David Gilmour is 71. Guitar God. Singer Kiki D today is 70. And do you remember that mega hit, Don't Go Breaking My Heart, she did with Elton John back in 1976? One of the biggest mega hits in all of music history. Kiki D today is 70. Director Rob Reiner is also 70 today. And, of course, he gave us some of the greats. This is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, and, of course, The Princess Bride. Our dead guy's birthday today is the one and only Michelangelo. 1475 to 1564, died at the age of 88. Of course, he was an Italian high Renaissance artist who painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Now, here's a little trivia for you. He created two of his most famous sculptures, the Pieta and David, before the age of 30. His painting of the Last Judgment on the Sistine Chapel altar on that wall and the Genesis scenes on the ceiling became two of the most influential frescoes in all of Western art. Happy birthday, Michelangelo. On this day in history, OTD. Oh, wait a minute. We didn't have an OTD today. There was nothing that happened in history that was relevant to me or you or this show. There you go. It was so funny. Rita came in and goes, no OTD today. I was like, what do you mean no OTD? She said, no OTD. Nothing interesting happened ever in the history of mankind on this day. But I do have a cool fader fact. An apple didn't hit Isaac Newton in the head. It didn't. That's a fact. But it did make him wonder if the force that makes an apple fall influences the moon's motion around the earth. That's what the apple did for Isaac Newton. But a sample of his apple tree that he had, the famous apple tree, was actually sent into space to defy gravity. All right. That's a fader fact. That's a real fader fact. Tonight, forbidden archaeologist Michael Cremo is here. Tomorrow night, Andrew Collins. Wednesday night, Marla Martinson is here. Thursday's a special Fader night, the 20th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights with Dr. Lynn Katai. And, of course, John Rappaport will be here with his No More Fake Newsroom. But right now, I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only, the almighty, the man behind the curtain, Ronnie McMullen from GetTheTea.com, Life Change Tea. Ronnie, good evening.
What do you say, man?
It's all on you, Ronnie. Did you know, Ronnie, did you know, oh, wait a minute. You live in Arizona, right?
Correct.
Were you in Phoenix for the Phoenix Lights?
I was not. What a bummer.
Oh, man. I was there, but I didn't see it. That's an even bigger bummer. You could say, I mean, if you weren't in Phoenix, well, then it's no big deal. You weren't in Phoenix. I was in Phoenix, outside, and didn't see it. I got back on Friday night. I get into my place, and I throw my luggage down. Just got in from the airport from Phoenix, and I turn on the TV, and I'm turning on the lights, and I turn on the TV, and the news is on. And it stopped me dead in my tracks. Last night, a UFO was seen over Phoenix. And I'm looking at the video. I'm like, last night? And I'm watching the video, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I was at the Hard Rock Cafe on the patio all night. Right there, man. Right at the mountain at Camelback. I was right there. I was busy looking down at my drinks instead of looking up in the sky, I guess. But I didn't see it. I did not see it. It still trips me out to this day that I stood there in my living room for about 10 or 15 minutes, a little pissed off, but also perplexed. Well,
oh my God.
Because it was huge, and it was right there.
Oh, yeah.
and didn't see it, didn't hear about it. Obviously, all of Phoenix knew about it except for me and all of my friends that were at the Hard Rock that night. So you did not see it. This week, actually, it's on Monday, is the 20th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights. Pretty trippy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what are you saying? So does that mean that, like, when all of a sudden there's a human abduction going on in Los Angeles, that you're probably not going to see that ship either?
Well, see, that's a great point. I would say that.
Of course, if you're in the studio, unless you have windows all over everywhere, that's going to be tough.
Well, it's happened a few times like that. And unless you're looking in the right direction, you're just going to miss it. Like last year when they had the big blue, the big blue lights that were out over the ocean here, right? And it was huge. And Rita and I were with a friend of ours, Dan, up at Universal City Walk, sitting outside on the patio there, and we were there for like 2 or 3 hours eating dinner and talking and stuff. And so after the dinner, we go and we get in our car, which is also outside, and we get in the car, and as we're driving away, our phones start ringing, and it's everybody calling us to tell us, look up in the sky, it's, and we're like, what do you, so we're looking, and it was behind us because we're driving north. Right? And it was behind us out over the ocean, and we missed it. We were outside. You have to, and as big as of an event as that was, because it was seen from Las Vegas. I think it was seen in Phoenix. It was seen up and down the coast, San Francisco. Everybody saw it. It would have been easy to see if we had just turned around. But a big event like that, back to my point and your point, you have to be looking at the right place at the right time, or you will miss something. And there's a perfect example of it is we missed the blue lights last year that hung out there for 10 minutes, but we didn't see it.
So have you ever seen an actual UFO that you could say wasn't just some kind of light that you can't figure out, but I mean, you knew that it was maneuvering or whatever it was doing, that it was a UFO? You ever seen anything?
Well, of course, we had our famous sighting last year at Contact in the desert. And so not to revisit that again, because that was extraordinary and it was witnessed by a lot of other people. But Rita and I were driving. Again, I've told the story a few times, but I haven't told it in a while. But the answer to your question is yes. Rita and I were coming down La Tuna Canyon from the valley side of La Tuna Canyon, and we're coming down into the San Fernando Valley. And if anybody knows, it's a winding canyon road that goes over the top of a mountain, right? So we're coming down into the valley, and La Tuna Canyon eventually turns into like Tuxford into Roscoe Boulevard and goes all the way across the valley. So we're coming down, we're still on the mountain, and Rita, we had the sunroof open, and it was 10:24 at night, 10:24. Rita just goes, "Is Ronnie going to say anything?" Ronnie's asking me questions tonight, Rita. He's being the show host.
You.
Yeah. And so we're coming down the mountain, and Rita, the sunroof is open, and Rita says, WTF, right? Okay, I don't want to say exactly what she said, but those were the words. And I look over at her, and she's looking up through the sunroof. So now I'm driving on a winding road, coming down a canyon road, so I got to be careful. But I look up to where she's looking, and there's this white. This is all the best way I can explain it. It lasted for about 1 second. Okay. Okay, that's it. Like 1 second. And it was a white ball of light that came down straight through the center of the windshield of the car and looked like it crashed in downtown Van Nuys. I can see the valley in front of me, right? Okay, you're on you see the lights of the valley, and it came right down into the center of where the courthouse is. And I, at that moment, expected a nuclear explosion. I thought something was going to blow up. That's what it looked like. Now, this white ball of light didn't have any smoke or sparks or anything. It was just a white ball. And it was fast. It was like 1 second. It went from the sunroof down through the center of the hood of the car and landed in downtown Van Nuys. At that moment, I freaked, of course, and it didn't explode, and that kind of caught me by surprise. And I immediately called Wolf McCarran over at MUFON. And I immediately, and I said, "Dude, any reports of anything?" And he said, "What?" And I looked down at my clock, and it was like at 10:26. And I said, "Dude, 2 minutes ago, 10:24, white ball of light crashed into downtown Van Nuys." Right? I was just like, man, And now from where we were, this is what's interesting here, Ronnie. From where we were to downtown Van Nuys, it's probably 5 miles, 7 miles away. So this ball of light was significant in size, and it was bright. It was like, it was bright. It had luminescence around it. It looked like a light, a big ball. And it was crazy, man. It was crazy. And this is the other thing. Rita just said he asked about an actual UFO. That is a UFO, Rita. How UFO can you get? It was unidentified.
Rita, I heard light. Did you hear light, Rita?
It was unidentified. It was flying, and it was an object. But this is what's trippy. I saw it, and this is where eyewitness accounts can get funky. Okay? I saw it go straight down through the center of the windshield of the car, center of the hood, into Van Nuys. Rita says she saw it turn. Now, I didn't see it turn. I saw it come straight down. Now, I don't know if it turned before I saw it, but maybe when she was looking up, it turned. But she says it didn't. Her memory was that it went in another direction, as opposed to what I saw, which was straight down into Van Nuys. I'm sticking to my story. She's sticking to hers. But there you go. You have two eyewitnesses that obviously saw something, and we don't have the same story. And there you go. She's sticking to hers. I'm sticking to mine, and there you go. How about you, Ronnie? Before we start, I want to get into your new products. Have you ever seen anything strange in the sky that you can't explain?
Oh yeah. You want the scariest one? Do you want the most original one? Because I see them all the time.
Okay. Give me the one. I mean, there's one. Give me that one.
And I'm almost ashamed of a little bit, but I'll share it because I always think a person needs to be transparent.
Okay.
So when I was young, I trained to be a police officer.
Okay.
So I had a lot of background in that kind of work. Later on in life, I've got my 2 little girls, it's before my 3rd one was born. And I'm laying in bed, we go to bed, and the lights are out. I don't leave any lights on in the home. And all of a sudden, it was probably maybe an hour after we were, laid in sleep. And all of a sudden, underneath the door, I could see this bright light, like incredibly bright light, like I've never seen in my life. And I was just, fear struck me so hard I couldn't move. I'm the kind of guy, if something goes down, I'm out of the bed, boom, I either got a gun in my hand or a baseball bat, or, that's the kind of person I am, especially with a lot of the training I had. I'm laying in bed and I'm seeing this light, and it's coming underneath the door, and it's lighting half of our bedroom up, and the hallway that the light is, it's just incredibly like huge spotlights or whatever. My girls are in the room next to us. The first thing I thought of is, are my girls safe? I had so much fear, so much paralyzation, I couldn't get out of bed. I just sat there. And so like a moron, I pull the covers up like that's really going to protect me.
Or your kids.
Thinking about my girls, I got to get out of bed. I got to go see what's going on.
Right.
And all I did was I just started praying. That's all I knew what to do. It was like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And the light, boom, it was out. And as soon as the light was out, I was able to get out of bed, and there was nothing there.
Did you at least check on your kids?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Just make They're fine. They're sleeping. Everything was good. But I couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
And the light was so bright. I mean, I could see my wife, and our room was very black. So I could see my wife. I could see, the dresser. I could see everything going on in the room.
Right.
Because the light was so bright. And the light was not on in our room.
Wow. What, I want to hear more of this the next time you're on the show. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to call you and get some more, because for you to tell the story like that means that it was never like that before. Your house, your neighborhood, you know what's going on, where the streets are, what it could possibly be. And it wasn't any of the possibilities, right? This was something
none of the possibilities. I mean, I had a time before that I heard something rap on our window. It was a different house, but something rap on the window. I got out of bed just like I normally do. It turns out it was like a raccoon. But in other words, there was nothing. You say, oh, geez, it was fear, but I'm like, I could have had just as much fear in the rapping of the window, and I got up and I was ready to go for it.
Right.
So it was different. And the light was so bright. I mean, I can't tell you. It was like our house was on fire, but it was brighter than that.
What's new before we run out of time here? Because that's what happens every time you're on the show. We never talk. We don't talk. Big 3 on sale, and everybody always asks me, "What's the best?" If I wanted to get the best things of what you sell, what would it be? And I always say tea, colostrum, and Allison. And so I put those 3 on a special, and they're right on the front page if you scroll down, and you can get that. So that's kind of cool, and you save money. So that's even more cool when you save money. So it's
for those people that love
Ronnie, let me jump in. That's called the Big 3, right? The Big 3. So you get all 3 for
$165.
Right.
And the Allison, by the way, is now a 2-month supply. So you're getting the Allison Advanced. It's also got a kicker, a B12 in it. So I'm really excited about this. People have been ranting how wonderful this is.
Right.
So it's great. Also have for those people that love to do smoothies and superfoods and all that kind of stuff, I have found this company, and I'm very excited about it. It's called Boku. And they're actually out of Ventura, California. And so they're right up the road from you. And they carry super protein. And so I'm carrying protein because we have our superfoods that are coming very soon. And I'm excited for those people that really, they're maybe on the vegan roll. They're trying to change their diet a little bit. And this is something that's really good. There's 18 grams of protein per serving. So it's all vegan based. It's all protein, plant-based protein powder. And it's the best of the best. It's organic. It is amino acids you need to be active and strong. And it digests wonderfully, so it's really great for your digestion system and for it being GMO free and being organic. And of course, everything that I have or curate at my little Get the Tea store is always the best.
So Boku, I remember in the 80s, right? Somebody go, okay, man, you need to bring beer. How much? Boku, dude. You need to. Is
Jimmy?
Am I right? Am I right? And they're from Ventura, so I know that's what's going on, man. That's funny.
I don't think you mix it with beer, but I guess you could.
Well, it meant a lot of anything, right? Boku, dude.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's actually funny.
Yeah, it is. It's right here too.
And it's the truth.
Right. So it's Boku Original Super Protein, and I can't wait. I know that you're going to send me some of this, and we have a little smoothie machine over at the house. So that's all you do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course we do.
The Burger Man?
Of course,
really?
Of course.
I know you're on my other stuff, and I'm very excited about that. We're getting you all healthy, but you're actually going to... You want to go this direction? Wow.
Look, man, I got the live bunker cam right now. This is right there. See, right there. That's how much I love it.
We should ask your listeners, do they think you're really going to do this, or are you going to break down and go back to In-N-Out?
Man, there's nothing wrong. No, there's nothing wrong with this smoothie to wash down that delicious In-N-Out burger. Hey, Ronnie, thank you so much, man. Listen, thank you so much. And for everybody, it's getthetea.com. And what's the promo code they use?
They just say Jimmy, and they're going to get free shipping. But they're going to get free shipping on that anyway. So they just go and get free shipping on that special.
That's it. So Jimmy, either online or over the phone or online, and they get their free shipping because they know you.
Yeah, because like the it's $100 orders is free shipping, but the Boku is not $100 obviously. So if you just want the Boku and that's all you want, or you want Boku and tea, and it's not $100, just mention Jimmy. You're going to get free shipping.
Ronnie McMullen, everybody, getthetea.com. All you got to do is just go over to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the getthetea.com banner. It's right there, Life Change Tea, promo code Jimmy. That's all you need to know. Ronnie, you are the very best. You run one of the great companies in the world. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I love you, brother. Bye.
Love you right back. Ronnie McMullen. I'll be right back with the one and only Michael Cremo, the forbidden archaeologist. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Ronnie McMullen, Get the Tea. Coming up next, Michael Cremo. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tepe.
Hi folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders, and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's GetTheTea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fader-Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Our guest tonight, Michael Cremo, also known as the Forbidden Archaeologist. He is hailed as one of the groundbreaking research pioneers and international authority on archaeological anomalies. His landmark bestseller, Forbidden Archaeology, challenged the very foundation of the Darwinian evolution. Michael continues to dig up enigmatic discoveries in the fossil record and shake up accepted paradigms, exploring famous archaeological sites around the world, journeying to not only India, which he just got back from, we'll talk about that in just a second, but he has appeared on national television shows in the United States and other countries. He's lectured all over the world on mainstream science and mainstream science conferences, and also alternative gatherings of global intelligence. He crosses the disciplinary and cultural boundaries. He presents to his various audience a compelling case for negotiating a new consensus on the nature of reality. He is a member of the World Archaeological Congress and the European Association of Archaeologists, and after receiving a scholarship to study international affairs at George Washington University, he began to study the ancient Sanskrit writings in India known as the Vedas. In this way, he has broadened his academic knowledge with spirituality from the Eastern tradition. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Michael Cremo. Michael, good evening.
Good evening. Good to be with you and all your listeners.
You know, Michael, you've got one of the most unique voices, right? I don't even need to introduce you, right? Your voice comes on and everybody knows who you are, but it is just great to hear your voice again, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. How are you?
Well, it's great. I'm fine. It's good to hear your voice as well. Good to be back.
Now,
Fade to Black.
I have respected you for so long. So has everybody else. And looking back, I kind of just want to start here. I'm sure that you've been fielding this question over the years, but Forbidden Archaeology, when it came out, it ruffled, right? It freaked some people out. But now that it has established itself, looking back, did you have any idea that it would have the impact and the longevity and the legs that it has had over the years?
You know, I actually did foresee it would have some impact. And during the 8 years that I was doing the research and writing for that book, before I even went out to the public to try to represent the ideas in it, I a strategy that I had thought about when I was doing the research and writing for the book. And basically the strategy was this. Put out that book, Forbidden Archaeology, which is 900 pages long. Put it out there, send it to all of the mainstream scientific journals, all the journals of archaeology and anthropology. Send it out to prominent scientists, knowing that many of them were going to say extremely negative things about it, but also understanding that some of them would see, even if they might disagree with me about so many things, they would see that there was something solid there, something worth looking at. So then, anticipating that there would be both positive and extremely negative reactions, bring out a shorter edition of the book, because a lot of people aren't going to go through 900 pages. I had that in mind, that we would then bring out a shorter edition of the book called The Hidden History of the Human Race, about 300 pages long. And I anticipated, okay, we'll put on the cover, the back cover of that book, not only the positive reviews, but the negative ones, which was something that really wasn't done a lot in those days.
What would a negative...
that you could use negative comments to actually get the attention of the media and go on radio and television, and basically that's what happened.
Wait, Michael, let me jump in. What was a negative comment? Something like Cremo was out of his mind? I mean, what did
Richard Leakey, for example, said, nobody would take this book seriously but a fool. It's just completely, that sort of thing.
Right on.
This is just drivel. Another reviewer his name was Jonathan Marks. He was a physical anthropologist writing in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology. He called me every bad name he could think of. So that kind of thing, we put that stuff on the cover of the book, along with the more positive statements that some of the scientists and academic reviewers came out with. So, there was a famous British-born historian of science, David Oldroyd. He and his colleague wrote in one of the academic journals, they asked the question, does this book, Forbidden Archaeology, make a contribution to the literature on paleoanthropology? That's the science of human origins and antiquity. And they said yes, for two reasons. First, nobody's gone into the history of archaeology in such depth before. And second, the book, they said, raises important questions about the nature of scientific truth claims. So they thought we had done a good job in raising some fundamental questions about the truth of some of the prominent theories about human origins and antiquity. So we put both those positive statements and the negative ones on the cover of the book, and it did attract the attention of the media. I started doing dozens and dozens of radio and television interviews, and the book got translated into about 26 languages all over the world. But this was something that I foresaw during the 8 years that I was doing the research and writing all by myself in Los Angeles, just looking at the four walls of my room. I kind of sensed I was on to something that was going to have some impact. And actually, the next book I put together was a book called Forbidden Archaeology's Impact, because people would ask me, what have been the reactions to your work? So I collected all of those reactions, positive and negative, my correspondence with scientists, and put it all together in a book called Forbidden Archaeology's Impact. So, and now it could have been that none of that would have happened. The book could have come out and it could have just been like, the tree falling in the forest where there's nobody to listen to it. Does it really make a sound?
Right.
It could have been like that, but I kind of foresaw that there actually would be some impact, and I had a plan for seeing that impact did take place, and fortunately, I gambled correctly.
Do you think that the world in general, and I'm speaking more to popular culture, the status quo, is starting to wake up and starting to question that very dogma that we have been fed for years and throughout academia about where we came from and how old we are, and the possibilities that things extend way past 150,000 years, right? That man has been here quite possibly many different times and going back millions of years. Do you think that we are starting to wake up to that, and it doesn't freak us out like it may have, before Darwin and 200 years ago, that today it's a different world?
To some extent, yes. To some extent, no. And let me explain what I mean.
Okay.
As far as the general public is concerned, most Americans today, if you look at Gallup surveys, they don't accept the Darwinian theory of evolution and its timeline. That's been shown. Maybe about 30 to 40% do accept, but about 50 to 60% don't. That's been shown by Gallup surveys. And the kind of thing I'm talking about doesn't relate just to how long the human species has been here, but where we came from and our presence in the universe. And these days, people are interested in all kinds of phenomenon, extraterrestrial phenomenon of all kinds. And they're also interested in things showing that we're not purely material beings. They're interested in paranormal phenomenon, reincarnation memories, out-of-body experiences, and things of that sort. Surveys have been done showing that majorities of people around the world actually accept these things and believe these things. And I think this is reflected in our popular culture, the kinds of movies that people go to see, the kinds of stories that they like to hear about. If you go through the different varieties of shows that are available on YouTube and the television outlets, the cable networks and things like that, you'll see a tremendous amount of interest in these things. But as far as the mainstream educational institutions and scientific institutions are concerned, they've still managed, the scientists, to accept these very narrow, materialistic, scientific theories related to human origins and our place in the universe. They've managed to kind of keep a government-enforced monopoly in those educational institutions and scientific institutions. So I would say, as far as the general public goes, there's been a lot of progress made in terms of The educational institutions and scientific institutions, not so much. But I don't think that kind of situation can continue for an unlimited period of time, where you have vast majorities of people not accepting what is being presented to them through the government-controlled educational institutions and scientific institutions. It's kind of an unstable situation that eventually is going to change. And I think when the change comes, we'll see the educational institutions and scientific institutions starting to represent the diversity of opinions about these things that is actually there in the world, and even to some extent within the scientific institutions themselves. There are some few scientists who have adopted some of these alternative ideas, but they're marginalized and delegitimized in different ways.
Well, and how about you directly with your peers? You know, you're a member of the World Archaeological Congress, the European Association of Archaeologists, and when you guys get together to hang out, right? You guys have your yearly things, and you walk in the room. Are they like, okay, man, here comes that Cremo guy? Or do they come up to you, maybe whisper in your ear and go, dude, what have you got for us? What have you figured out? I mean, how
things are there. Both things are there. Because in those circles, the archaeological circles, there are basically two different kinds of archaeologists. There are archaeologists who think there is one objective material science of archaeology and it's got all the answers, and anybody who steps outside the bounds of that one archaeology is somehow or other out of the tribe, you could say. But there's another group of archaeologists which understands there can be more than one archaeology. There can be a Western scientific, rationalistic, objective, reductionistic kind of archaeology, but there could also be an Australian Aboriginal archaeology, a Native American Indian archaeology, or, as I'm promoting, a Vedic archaeology. And in other words, you've got one group of scientists that is, you could say, the archaeology group, singular, and then there's the other group who has a wider perspective. You could call them the archaeologies group. And I would say in the first group, the archaeology group, I don't get a very good reception. But among those who understand, there can be different perspectives on archaeology from different metaphysical viewpoints. They tend to welcome my participation in these conferences. They accept the papers that I propose to present. Sometimes they publish them in the official publications. Actually, my last published book, it's titled My Science, My Religion.
Right.
It's a collection of 24 papers that I have presented about my ideas at mainstream international scientific conferences. So I would say that among the professional archaeologists, there are some who appreciate what I do. They may not agree, but they think I have a right to be there. I have a right to say what I want to say just as much as anyone else. And I think that's very positive, because if ideas are going to change, the very first thing is that people, including scientists, should be willing to listen to new ideas, to listen to presentations of evidence, and perhaps even begin to change their minds based on that. But, the other group would kind of rather exclude all of that.
I was talking with a researcher this week, pretty famous guy, and a guy that I respect, but he seems to not be able to bend off of things are what they are, and we shouldn't think outside of the box. The evidence is right there in front of us, and suggesting that man had intelligence before 3000 BC, or that if there was an ET influence, or if there was another older lost civilization from 200,000 years ago that we didn't know about, of the Anunnaki, and on, that is just purely crazy talk. And that he has no issues with, Michael, of thinking and giving credit to Stone Age man at 3000 BC, that they were smarter than we're giving them credit for today. He doesn't have issues with that, but anything else outside, just slightly outside of the box, he says we're crazy. Literally, that it's crazy talk, and that we need to get our minds back together. And I don't even know how to respond to that. How do you respond to something like that?
Well, one thing I realize is that there are gradations of willingness to think outside the box. If something is just a little tiny bit outside the box, some scientists are willing to stretch their minds a little bit at a time. When something radically contradicts the dominant ideas, then you get this other type of reaction, I think. But one thing I'd like to point out, however, just personally, is I respect the right of each individual to make up their own minds about these things. If after having heard me, a person decides, well, I'm still not convinced, I think that I respect the right of a person to do that. What I don't think they have a right to do is to try to use government to enforce their ideas on everyone through the education system. That I don't agree with. I don't think people have a right to force their ideas.
Well, there's that issue, and then the other part is when it comes to the extreme outside of the box ideas, they don't want to even listen or read or even be consulted. They don't want to hear it at all. And they poo-poo these theories and ideas without, hearing you speak or Graham Hancock. They don't want to go and read those books or even listen to what we have to say at all. Their answer is, I don't have to, right? And that's what's most frustrating for me. Everybody should listen to everybody else.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it goes back to something that I call knowledge filtration. And this is perhaps related to an idea that was popularized by the historian of science Thomas Kuhn in his book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. He proposed that scientific work is carried out according to some paradigm. And a paradigm is a set of ideas about what are the proper questions to ask, what are the proper methods to investigate those questions, and what are the proper kinds of conclusions that can come about as a result of properly working on those proper questions.
Right.
And that tends to govern, a paradigm like that tends to govern how scientists will react to different categories of evidence that come to their attention. And they will try to make everything fit into that paradigm, and if it doesn't, then they just explain it away or dismiss it or don't even want to give it a hearing. There can be various reactions. And, there was a famous psychological experiment that was carried out in the 1940s. It had to do with psychologists showing people cards from a deck of playing cards. And what the psychologists did is they altered some of the cards in the decks. Say, if you have a 6 of hearts, normally it would be red, 6 of hearts, red symbols on it. But they switched the symbols to black, 6 black hearts. And they altered several of the cards in that way. But when they would show people the cards from the deck, one after another, people could not pick out that there was something wrong. They would look at a card, they would look at the black 6 of hearts, and they would see it as a 6 of spades, or they would just see it according to their expectations.
And not question, right.
So that's what scientists tend to do under the influence of a paradigm. They want to see everything fitting nicely within that paradigm, and that will cause them, even if they're looking at something that is anomalous, that is really wrong, they won't even recognize it for what it is, because the power of expectation is just so strong. And there was a recent case of that in archaeology. Just last year, some archaeologists in Africa at Olduvai Gorge found a finger bone. Now, this is a small thing, but there's an important principle here. They found this finger bone. It was actually from the small finger, one of the joints, and they carefully analyzed it, and they compared it to the same finger bone in different species of apes and monkeys and various kinds of ape men, like Neanderthals and Homo habilis and Homo erectus. And they also compared it with anatomically modern human finger bones, the same finger bone. And they found the finger bone was different from all the different species of apes and monkeys and ape men, and it was identical to the measurements of the same finger bone that you would find in an anatomically modern human finger.
How old was the bone? Right.
The problem was it was found in layers of rock 1,800,000 years old. And they said, in their scientific report, really amazing, this finger bone is just like that of Homo sapiens, but we can't call it Homo sapiens because of the age of the strata in which it was found. In other words, they were looking right at this evidence, and they couldn't see it for what it was, that it was evidence that humans like us were existing 1,800,000 years ago, that if you were totally objective, that's what you would see, that's what you would conclude. But because it didn't fit in with their theories, they couldn't see it like that.
And wouldn't. I have to take a break right here, Michael, so let's do that right now. Our guest is Michael Cremo. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, the Forbidden Archaeologist. And when we come back, I'm going to not only finish that thought with Michael, but we've got to go with the missing link. 150,000 years ago, something happened. We'll discuss that next with Michael. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went from being able to work 14, 16 hours a day with no problem to where I could barely walk a block to the store. I went on to the phytonutrients about 6 months ago, and within a couple of months, my medical doctor had cut my prescriptions down in a little bit smaller dosage. The next time I went back a month later, I walked into the doctor's office and he says, "My gosh, what's happened to you? You don't even look like the same person." He looked at my legs and the swelling had gone down. My blood pressure was down. The venous stasis ulcers that I had had on my legs for the last 4 or 5 years because of the poor circulation were all healed, and I'm feeling far better.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free, and we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Very simple. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Michael's website is mcremo.com. Now, Michael, right before the break, as we started to talk about some of these phenomena with evolution, I want to go back and address specifically the missing link, because that is, we've all been taught and all been told about the missing link. Still haven't found it. I doubt that we ever will, but 150,000 years, we've come a long way in such a short time. And that missing link, whatever that evolutionary process of the shape of the skull, the eyes, the nose, the bone structure, our skin, all of that should have taken, if Darwin was right, millions of years. But yet it happened overnight. We became upright and us, nearly instantaneously. What's the real story there?
Well, I mean, the standard story presented by the Darwinian evolutionists is that a couple of billion years ago there was no life on Earth. Then they say the chemicals in the Earth's ocean combined together somehow and produced some first self-reproducing, single-celled organism, something like an amoeba or something like that. And then somehow or other, some of these single-celled organisms started clumping together and forming simple multicellular organisms, some plants, seaweeds, some fish, things like that in the ocean. And then around 500 million years ago, they think that some of these plants and animals started getting out of the ocean and onto land, and then you get land plants developing, and the fish turned into amphibians, like salamanders and frogs and things like that, and then some of them turned into reptiles, different kinds of lizards and things like that, and then some of them turned into mammals, warm-blooded mammals, like little mouse-like creatures, and some of them became primitive apes and monkeys around 40 or 50 million years ago. And then they say around 6 or 7 million years ago, some of them started walking upright. And around 200,000 years ago, humans like us came into existence. Now, I don't accept that whole evolutionary picture of human origins that says humans like us first came into existence about 200,000 years ago, and before that there were only different kinds of ape men like Australopithecus and Homo erectus and Homo habilis and things like that. I don't accept that basic picture. For me, if you really look at all of the evidence, all the fossil evidence that I documented in Forbidden Archaeology, the picture that emerges is one of coexistence rather than evolution. I mean, I accept that, different kinds of ape men existed in the past, but alongside them, humans like us were also coexisting, and I think that coexistence goes all the way back to the very beginnings of the history of life on Earth. So the basic pattern I see when I look at all of the evidence is one of coexistence of humans like us with different kinds of apes and monkeys and ape men or ape women, and not one of evolution. And this has to do with a basic understanding of what any type of body really is, whether we're talking about a human body or a plant body or an animal body or an insect body or a fish body. I think all bodies are vehicles for conscious selves, because I think ultimately we're not the vehicles that we inhabit. We are the conscious self, which comes from an entirely different level of reality. And when the conscious self comes to the world of matter, it needs some kind of vehicle in which to function here according to its level of awareness. And I think the human vehicle is the one that allows the fullest expression of consciousness and awareness, and I think it has always been available for conscious selves from the very beginning of the history of life on Earth. So, to me, it's not the bodies that evolve one from the other. It's the conscious self that can move through different kinds of bodily vehicles. In one lifetime, the conscious self may be in the body of an animal, but gradually, lifetime after lifetime, the consciousness will take one body after another until it gets to the human form. So what I think the missing link is consciousness. That's what's missing from our scientific picture of biological reality. Today, most scientists think that consciousness is something that's produced by chemicals in the brain. But my position is that consciousness is a symptom of the soul. It has its existence independent from matter. Matter does not produce consciousness, but consciousness can come into contact with matter and become covered by matter, which is very limiting.
When it comes to biologists and the Darwinianist of them, the common thing for that I don't get, I just want to get this thought out in a pure sense, is quite simply we haven't seen evidence of evolution even from our closest things like chimpanzees or gorillas or orangutans. They are not, they are not building houses today, right? They are not. They don't talk, or they're everything is missing from evolution if it is supposed to be occurring. But with us as humans, we've certainly come a long way with our minds and invention, because today, if we think it, we can invent it, right? No matter what it is. We want to go to the stars, we do it. We want a flat screen TV, we think about it, we just build it. But that same process hasn't occurred in nature, right? How do those biologists explain that if they want to say it's okay with us, but not with anything else?
Well, I don't think they have a very good explanation for it. And the way I see it is the human vehicle, the human body, has that kind of capacity. If you put the same conscious self in a human body, you put that same conscious self into the body of an ape or a monkey, it won't be able to do the same things that it could in a human body, because the human body has greater capacities. It's like, say, I'm a person and I can ride a bicycle. A bicycle is a kind of vehicle, and I can go so far and so fast on a bicycle. If I get on a motorcycle, I can go faster and further than I could just pedaling a regular bicycle. If I get in a Maserati, a highly engineered sports car, I can go much faster and further than I could on the motorbike. If I get in a submarine, I can go on the water, I can go under the water. If I get in an airplane, I can fly in the sky. If I get on a spaceship, I can go into space around the Earth. I'm the same person, but according to the vehicle that I'm in, I can operate to a greater or lesser degree. So, and why is that? It's because engineers have designed these vehicles with certain capacities, and one doesn't become another automatically. They're designed and built separately, in different kinds of factories. So I would say our human vehicle has been designed for the kinds of capacities that you've mentioned. And a conscious self in a human vehicle can use the vehicle to its full capacity, whereas the vehicle, the body of an ape or monkey, it doesn't have that capacity. You know, just like if you're on a pedal bicycle, you're never going to go 500 miles an hour, no matter how hard you pedal.
Right, right.
It's just not going to work. It's not designed to do that. And even though you're capable of doing it, if you were in the proper kind of vehicle, you're still the same person. But in a proper vehicle that's capable of going, 500 miles an hour through the air, like a jet airplane, you could do that. But if you're on a regular pedal bicycle, you're not going to be able to travel at 500 miles an hour, no matter what you do. It's because you're limited by the capacity of the vehicle that you're in.
And
I would say that some higher cosmic intelligence has designed different kinds of bodily vehicles with different capacities. And according to one's level of consciousness, or, to throw some Vedic terms out, according to one's karma or whatever, you're placed in a certain type of vehicle, and in that vehicle you have a certain capacity. That doesn't mean that's all that you can do. It just means that's all that you can do in that vehicle. If in another lifetime you're placed in a vehicle like the human vehicle that has these higher capacities, then you can do it. But the highest capacity that the human vehicle has, it has the ability to transfer a conscious self beyond the world of matter. And that's more important than building computers or jet airplanes or whatever.
Well, and an interesting point that you made there, you can send a monkey or a chimp into space 1,000,000 times, but he doesn't know that he's in space, right? He doesn't understand, or never will, the difference between flying in an airplane or a car or being up in space. He doesn't even understand the concept.
Or what to speak of the ability to make those kinds of vehicles.
Yes, that's a very interesting point. I want to change gears a little bit here. With the different sites and cities around the world, of course, I do want to talk a little bit about Giza and Göbekli Tepe and that type of, or those lost civilizations in history. I want to get to that, but we also have like Cusco in Peru, and we have the sites in Asia, here in the United States and in North America. We have these different sites and these different megalithic ancient structures around the world. For you, which one is the site that represents a lost civilization or a lost history and a lost technology?
Well, I think all the ones that you've mentioned are signs of that. All over the world you can find huge megalithic structures that are very difficult to explain. How huge pieces of stone were quarried and moved into place. There are different theories about it, but sometimes it seems that powers beyond those that we're familiar with would be required for some of these structures. Like whether we're talking about Stonehenge or some of the monuments in Egypt or other places like that. I was looking at the castle in Osaka, Japan, and they're huge. I mean, it's not as old as the pyramids or Stonehenge. It's maybe a few hundred years old, but they're just huge blocks of stone, 40 or 50 feet long, 40 or 50 feet wide in the walls of this castle. I just wonder, how did they get there? it's really pretty amazing. So, it in a lot of the ancient wisdom traditions, there are accounts of people being able to move things by sound vibration, by different kinds of mystic powers, and things of that sort. And I think, and there's even a possibility of some of these things having some extraterrestrial kind of source. So, that's something that I find very interesting, the possibility of extraterrestrial influences on
Are you comfortable?
Civilization.
Are you comfortable with that thought?
Yeah, I think, there was, in Europe, about 500 years ago, there was something called the Copernican revolution, where they kind of got away from a geocentric picture of astronomy. But I think our picture of biology is still very much geocentric, Earth-centric, when the real fact is there is life scattered throughout the universe. The ancient Sanskrit writings of India talk about 400,000 human-like species scattered throughout the universe. And, I have kind of an expanded conception of what the term extraterrestrial means. Some researchers would say extraterrestrial just means other flesh and blood creatures like ourselves from some other part of the solar system or the universe. But I would say the term extraterrestrial would include not only flesh and blood creatures like ourselves, but creatures with bodies made of more subtle mental and intellectual energies, operating beyond the laws of chemistry and biology and physics that we're familiar with on this planet. So I think in different cultures, people have had different names for them, devas, jinn, gods, goddesses, whatever. So I think those more subtle beings should also be taken into account.
Are you suggesting that that type of life also, would that occur in an evolutionary process over millions of years, or is it just because they're just another species from another, solar system, another galaxy, and that's just the process that took place? And I ask that because, you have amino acids, or you have the basic structures, and you have helium and hydrogen and carbon throughout the universe. And so wouldn't DNA be basically the same? But if we are talking about other, 400,000 different species or beings, then is it because they evolved that way and they maybe were us at one point, is what I'm getting at, and they went through an evolutionary process of 1 billion years or an extra 500 million years and transformed into these other species?
If you look at me, my ideas, you'll see that I'm not very much in favor of bodies evolving one to the other. I think our universe is kind of like a little virtual reality system,
right,
for conscious selves that aren't fit to exist on a higher level of reality that I call the level of pure consciousness. And when there must be some place for those conscious selves who aren't fit to exist on that higher level to act out their desires. So this universe that we're in, that's one of, because I think there endless numbers of universes. There's not just one universe, there's many of them. Or you could call it a multiverse if you want. But in that virtual reality system, it's kind of designed into it that there are different kinds of bodies in different places. It's like, if people, engineers, software engineers design a computer world, people play different kinds of computer games, Minecraft, and it's sort of designed into them that there are different localities and different kinds of bodies that you can have in that virtual reality system. And they're all designed into the system. They don't evolve one from the other. They're designed into it. And you just have your choice. By how well you play the game, you might be able to get a certain type of body in the virtual reality system. But it's all designed into it. So I think all these 400,000 different kinds of human-like bodies and the millions of other kinds of plant and animal bodies that are found throughout the universe, not just on Earth, but on all the different other planetary systems and different levels of reality that there are within the material universe, they've been designed into it from the very beginning. And according to one's status, according to one's level of consciousness, according to one's karma, you could say, one gets placed in a certain type of body, because there are endless numbers of kinds of desires that people have, and in order to fulfill them, you need an endless number of different kinds of vehicles. But I think they're all designed into the system by a higher intelligence. It's not that they're just spontaneously evolving by purely naturalistic, materialistic processes like the Darwinian theory of evolution, which I think doesn't really explain anything at all. I don't think they've really explained exactly which chemicals combine in exactly which way to form exactly what first living thing.
You know what? I've got to take a break right here, Michael, but have you ever sat down with Richard Dawkins?
No, I haven't. I'd be happy to do it.
I know you would.
I'm not sure we would agree on one single point.
No, but I would love to be the guy buying that dinner. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Michael Cremo, the forbidden archaeologist. When we come back, we're going to talk about out-of-place objects and artifacts and his favorite examples of that. When we come back, this is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Michael Cremo. I'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oh, fall. My favorite time of year. Cooler temperatures and, well, let's be honest, layers. Lots and lots of layers. Look, I get it. We all have that favorite hoodie. Matter of fact, I've got a few favorite hoodies. You should wear yours. Enjoy it. I do. But I stay focused on my health year-round. And for me, I take Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. I eat right, control my portion sizes, still maintain a commitment to regular fitness, and I get plenty of rest, and I take Nature's Youth RSF. It's okay to cover up your beach body for a few months, but don't just forget about it. Nature's Youth understands exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products, and Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain peak performance levels and fight the aging process. So layer up and get started today with Nature's Youth RSF. nature'syouth.com. Simple to use, even simpler to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
I have actually been on Balance of Nature for a year now. I have MS, and I recently had an MRI. This is the first year that I've had a stable MRI, so I'm thrilled. When I have an MRI with MS, usually there are glowing spots that come through, which is damage on the nerves in my brain and my spinal cord, and when they're glowing, it means they're active. And then my last MRI, they pulled it up, and I honestly couldn't believe that it was my MRI. There was nothing glowing. And in fact, the dark spots were shrinking. They were healing. And the doctor actually said to me, I think we're in remission. I was so happy. I had no idea that that could be my reality.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free. And we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Michael Cremo's website is mcremo.com, and if you just go over to jimmychurchradio.com, you can just click on it right there underneath Michael's bio. Michael, one of the things where you tipped over the world was with out-of-place artifacts. And I kind of want to take a tour through some of your favorite examples that you have presented, and then I'll throw some other ones out there. But for you, when we're talking about things that are, 1 million years old, 1 billion years old, what are your favorite examples of out-of-place artifacts?
One of my favorite examples is the California gold mine discoveries. I talk about it a lot, but it's just so fascinating to me. Like during the middle of the 19th century, gold was discovered in California, and miners went there to get the gold, and to get the gold, they were digging tunnels into the sides of mountains at places like Table Mountain in the Sierra Nevada mountains in Tuolumne County near the town of Sonora. And deep inside these tunnels, the miners were finding human bones and human artifacts. They were finding obsidian spear points. They were finding stone mortars and pestles along with human bones. And what made these things so interesting to me is they were found in layers of rock that modern geologists tell us belong to the early part of the geological period called the Eocene, which means they would be about 50 million years old. So for someone like me, it's not at all surprising to find evidence for a human presence going back about 50 million years. But for most archaeologists today, it's just beyond imagination, beyond belief, that you could have humans existing 50 million years ago. But, these discoveries were initially reported to the scientific world by a prominent scientist, Dr. J.D. Whitney, who was a Harvard-educated geologist who was the chief government geologist of California And his report about these discoveries was published by Harvard University in the year 1880. But we don't hear very much about these discoveries today because of the process of knowledge filtration. There was another scientist, a contemporary of Whitney's, an anthropologist named William Holmes, who worked at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. And he said, if Dr. Whitney had understood the theory of human evolution, he would not have come to those conclusions, that humans existed 50 million years ago. In other words, if the facts didn't support the theory of evolution, the facts, according to Holmes, shouldn't have been published. They should simply have been forgotten. And basically, that's what happened. But some of the artifacts from the California gold mines are still in the collection of the Museum of Anthropology at the University of California at Berkeley. They're not shown to the public. They're kept in a storage building several miles from the museum, but I got permission from the directors of the museum to study and photograph them, so they still exist. But to me, it's one of my favorite cases because the artifacts are still there. They were found in a geological situation that indicates they're 50 million years old or older. It's very well documented by a very prominent scientist, Dr. J.D. Whitney, in a report published by Harvard University. And it's also very well documented why we don't hear about these today. Other scientists decided, well, because these things contradict the theory of evolution, they couldn't possibly be true. So that's how this process of knowledge filtration operates. So that's one of my favorite cases. I also went to the mountains of California, the Sierra Nevada mountains, and we were actually able to relocate some of the old 19th century gold mining tunnels where these things were originally discovered. So that's one of my favorite cases.
What about the King Goody nail?
That was an iron nail that was found in a block of limestone that was excavated from a quarry in northern England. It might be part of Scotland now, the Kinwoody quarry. And the limestone from that quarry in which this nail was found solidly embedded in a block of limestone is hundreds of millions of years old. I think 300 or 400 million years old.
Right.
So that's one of the more extreme anomalies. That's an interesting one, definitely.
And the London Hammer. Oh, let me ask you this before you answer the London Hammer artifact. How long does it take? I don't want to sound stupid here, but it's an honest question. How long does it take rock to form? Is there any way to expedite limestone or granite or coal or any of these formations where these objects have been found in? Could they form in modern times in 50 years? Is there a possibility of that, or is there no way to expedite the formation of limestone or coal or granite?
Well, I think a lot depends upon how old one thinks the Earth is. Now, I know there are many people who accept a very young age for the Earth, 10,000 years or less. So researchers who favor that idea I think, are looking for ways to explain in which these huge layers of rock and coal and other sediments could have formed in the space of a very few years, relatively speaking. And I think they have a right to explore that idea. However, I think they're operating basically from a variety of biblical perspective, young Earth, a young Earth creationist perspective. And I think they have every right to conduct their research on that basis and try to explain things in that way. I'm operating on another basis. A lot of my inspiration for my work comes from the ancient Sanskrit writings of India, which have a time scale for the Earth, which is in the billions of years, sort of close to what modern science has to say about it. So I'm just being upfront about what my particular bias is, because I think everyone has a bias. Nobody is totally, completely, 100% objective, I think. So, perhaps I'm not as motivated as some others would be to try to explain the origin of all the formations of rock and coal and limestone in the Earth's crust, to put that within the space of a very short period of time. I think it is possible in some instances for some small portions of limestone to be formed very quickly. There's a phenomenon called beach rock in tropical areas where the minerals in the ocean water are washed over a surface and they condense very rapidly into a kind of limestone rock that's called beach rock. So that can happen. And, there can be huge eruptions of volcanoes and things like that result in very quick deposit of hundreds of feet of ash that could solidify into rock fairly quickly. So sometimes there are catastrophic events that do result in the relatively quick production of small, limited areas of different kinds of sediments and rock. That, I think, does happen. But in terms of the whole body of rock and layers of sediment that are found in the Earth's crust and surface, I tend to accept that they are genuinely laid down in the course of tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of years. But another thing that I would point out, and I think this is one reason why even those who support a very young age for the Earth in the Christian creationist field like what I do. I kind of tell them whether we think the Earth is a few thousand or a few billion years old. Humans have been around since the beginning, and there's evidence for it. And we agree on that basis, although we might disagree about the age of the Earth. But another thing is, part of my methodology in dealing with the scientific world is to say to them, according to methods that you consider reliable, the age of this formation is so-and-so many 100 million years old. How do you explain, the presence of this human bone or human artifact in that layer of rock, which according to methods that you consider reliable,
right,
are 10 million or 50 million or 100 million years old?
Well, when you have examples of human footprints alongside a dinosaur footprint in the same rock, that's pretty tough to explain away.
Yes, there's a case like that near the Paluxy River in Texas.
Right.
Near a place called Glen Rose in Texas on the Paluxy River. And, I didn't include that case in my book, Forbidden Archaeology, because it was originally investigated by a Christian creationist researcher, John Morris. And he initially presented the idea that at that Paluxy River site, you've got human footprints in the same layers as dinosaur footprints in layers of rock about 120 million years old from the Cretaceous period, one of the ages of the dinosaurs. But then later he changed his mind, and he said, actually, what I thought were human footprints are actually dinosaur footprints that have been eroded a little bit so that they look like human footprints, but they're really not. So because this researcher had withdrawn his claims about it, I kind of put the case in an undecided category, and I thought I'm just going to have to do further research on this case.
Well, I'm looking at one of the footprints here, and that's a human footprint, man. The one that's going across, you see the dino print, the three toes, and that human footprint that is there is clearly a human foot. That's not chimpanzee.
Yeah.
That's
now
not.
I tend to agree with you, and the reason why I do is that after Forbidden Archaeology was published, an archaeology student wrote to me, and this happens sometimes. Archaeology students write to me and say, I'm studying archaeology, and in class the professors are teaching me this, but I got a hold of your book, and I'm starting to see there's some other possibilities. And one of these archaeology students, happened to be from Texas, wrote to me and asked, is there anything I could do to help you out with your research? And I said to her, I wrote to her that you could, if you want to do something, you could go to this Paluxy River site and let me know what you think. Send me whatever you're able to find out about it. So she went there and participated in some new excavations that resulted in the uncovering of new footprints next to the dinosaur footprints. And, she sent me back information and reports that convinced me that they are, as you say, genuine human footprints, not just some dinosaur footprint that got
distorted,
eroded in some way, so that it looks like a human footprint. So now I tend to agree with you, and I'm in the process of writing a follow-up book to Forbidden Archaeology. I don't know what the end title of it's going to be, but maybe it'll be more Forbidden Archaeology or something like that. But I am going to include that case in this book, even though in the first book I didn't put it in because there seemed to be some confusion in the case of the original researcher who had reported these things having withdrawn his claims about them. So I had put that on a list of cases to further investigate, and the further investigation that I've done with the help of this student has convinced me that there are human footprints in the same layers as the dinosaur footprints, and it's evidence that humans were existing at that time, 120 million years ago.
Now let's talk about the London Hammer. That, for it's famous. We've all seen it, but that's a pretty tough one to explain away because it's obvious what it is. You can dispute a human footprint or a nail in some limestone. I could understand, that those types of arguments. But the London Hammer, it's clearly a hammer embedded in rock. And that's an interesting case as well. It's another one that I didn't include in my original book, Forbidden Archaeology, because I hadn't been able to investigate it to my satisfaction. But since then, of course, when you say London, I guess people know they're not talking about London, England. They're talking about London, Texas, yes,
which is in that Paluxy River area, same area where the human footprints were found near the dinosaur footprints. But, you've got an iron hammerhead, which strangely is not corroded at all, really, with part of a wooden handle attached to it, and the wood has become petrified, and around it is some kind of limestone rock. Now, I saw this object maybe about 10 years ago in Vienna, Austria, because there was this researcher there named Klaus Dona, an amazing guy.
Yes, he is.
He collected from all over the world hundreds of out-of-place artifacts, and he displayed them in a museum in Vienna, Austria. I mean, just temporary. It was a temporary display. Somehow or other, he got from museums and private collectors all over the world all of these out-of-place artifacts. And he had a conference at the opening of this museum collection that he invited me and some other researchers to speak at. So it was at that conference that I got the chance to see the London Hammer itself, and along with some of the sample footprints from the Paluxy River, from the dinosaur footprints and the human footprints, and also an iron cup that came from a coal mine in Oklahoma. So I got to see these things firsthand, and that was the start of some more further research on it. And, I think that here again, my further research has convinced me that these are genuine. It's a genuine case of evidence for extreme human antiquity, and I'll be including it in my new book, my follow-up to Forbidden Archaeology, with the updates and new cases that have come to my attention since the original book was published. I'm still working on that now.
Well, when you saw this with Klaus, and be honest with me, did you have like a real holy crap moment? That here it is, and emotionally, how were you feeling?
Well, it was a pretty amazing event. Like I said, it wasn't that he just had the London Hammer there. He had gotten the London Hammer and some other things. I mean, he had hundreds of artifacts from all over the world that he'd gotten from different private collections and museums and things like that. And I think there's a DVD, a video out there about the collection and the conference that was held so the whole event was really pretty amazing. Now I think that London Hammer is now in a museum in Texas. I forget the name of the museum, but when I was in, it is really an amazing experience to be in the presence of these artifacts which verify the existence of a human presence millions and millions of years ago, challenging everything that mainstream science now thinks about human origins and antiquity. It is pretty amazing to see not just reports about these things and photographs, but to see the objects themselves. And that's one thing I do in my research. Originally, for example, I just knew about the California gold mine discoveries from the reports that were written by Dr. Whitney in the 19th century. To actually get into the museum where they're being kept, not on public display, but in the storerooms, to actually get to see them, touch them, it is really pretty amazing. And that's what I did in the summer of 2016 when I went to the World Archaeological Congress meeting in Kyoto, Japan. When you go to a conference like that and speak, you speak in a section because there are lots of different sections in the conference. And the one I decided to present a paper in was one on, it was called Hidden Treasures in Museums. And that's what I do. I track down these things in the museum collections where they're not shown to the public and verify that they actually exist. So that is a very heart-moving experience to be in the presence, the physical presence of these artifacts, whether it's the London hammer or the California gold mine discoveries or any of the other ones that I've investigated.
What do you think? Well, what do you think? We're going to take a break here in 60 seconds, so you can answer it fairly quickly. But what ultimately does that tell you? Is it suggesting that we have had many different versions of us that have come and gone for whatever reason, and today we're just the latest iteration?
That's one thing. But the other thing it tells me is we need new explanations for who we are and where we came from. One's different from the ones that Richard Dawkins gives, for example.
All right, let's take a break right here. When we come back, I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects. I want to talk about India. All right, so let's do that when we come back, and you're just the man to answer all of my questions. Will you do that for me? Can we go all India for the next segment?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about. Michael Cremo, the Forbidden Archaeologist. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Michael. We're going to go India right after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
PatriotPrepared.com carries the leading brands of storable food from Numana, Legacy, and Heaven's Harvest. Patriot Prepared. Our name says it all. We're dedicated to empowering you to be self-reliant and confident in any circumstance. Whether you want to be prepared in the event of an emergency or you're an outdoor sports enthusiast, PatriotPrepared.com has prepackaged meals and kits for your entire family. Legacy, Heaven's Harvest, and Numana are known for high-quality, great-tasting GMO-free, nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. Simple to prepare, easy to store, gluten-free and organic high-quality nutrition options with a 25-year shelf life. You can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. So go to PatriotPrepared.com right now to pick up your supply of high-quality storable food for your family, because it makes good sense to be prepared. That's PatriotPrepared.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Teppy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Michael Cremo. This portion of the show is brought to you by River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. It's dark, it's complex, and it's even smokier. Just go to the River Moon banner right now on our site. Use the promo code F2BBLEND, and you're going to get 15% off of your order. It is truly the best coffee in the world. How cool is that, Michael, that we have our own coffee, Fade to Black blend? You kind of know you've arrived when you've got your own coffee. It's a pretty good feeling. I wanted to. I'm going to ask you this question, Michael, and I want you to take it the wrong way. Okay, I want you to get angry. When we talk throughout our circles, it's easy to talk about Egypt. It's easy to talk about Peru and Chile and South America and maybe even a little China and a little Japan. But they are even almost the redheaded stepchild. Even further down the list is India. What is the issue there? Why is it that here in the Western world and in our circles, India is not discussed like it should be on the front page as everything else?
I really don't know the answer to that. I don't know if I entirely agree that it's not discussed in the alternative circles, because I certainly talk about it, and I've seen others who are also talking about it. It's really an interesting question if that actually is the case. I'm not sure I entirely agree with you. Actually, Columbus, when he was sailing across the Atlantic, he was looking for India. That's why they called the people here Indians.
Right.
He was actually looking for India. So I think we know about it. I think everybody knows the Taj Mahal and the River Ganges and the Himalayan mountains. Yoga is now becoming very popular in the Western world. Meditation and things like that are practiced by many people. But it could be true that not so many people actually wind up going and visiting India, although I've been there 3 times in 2016 and once in 2017, and I've seen many, many Americans there when I go on my visits. So I just don't know if I entirely agree with you. It is a fascinating country, but it like any other country today, it has its problems.
Well, and what I guess what I'm saying is it's so easy for people to reference Giza and the pyramids, which I talk about. I'm guilty of it too, right? I'll talk about Giza a lot, or Göbekli Tepe, or Peru, or the Nazca lines.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know, and it's
I see what you mean in terms of people actually being familiar with the actual monuments there and things like that,
and the culture, and the age of the culture.
Now I see what you mean, and I agree with you there that in terms of actual monuments being recognized as being of extreme human antiquity, there may be some lack of attention there. Yeah, I see what you mean now. It really is kind of interesting. When I go there, the first thing that's apparent to me is that the culture itself is very much suffused by this idea that people have been on that continent, have been on Earth for millions and millions and millions of years. That's just totally accepted there. They have this idea of cyclical time going in vast cycles called yugas and manvantars and kalpas going back millions and millions of years. And all over the country, there are temples and sacred places that if you inquire about their history, you'll find they're commemorating events that took place millions and millions and even billions of years ago. And for example, a few years ago, I was visiting a temple in South India at a place called Sri Rangam in southern India. There's a massive temple there. Massive temple, surrounded by 7 walls. And in this temple, they're worshiping a sacred image. The image is made of black stone. It shows the god Vishnu lying on a serpent bed at the moment of creation. And the idea is that the universe is the dream of this god Vishnu who's lying on this serpent bed on what's called the causal ocean. So there's a stone image of this that's worshipped in that temple. And if you inquire about the history of this image, you'll find, well, originally it's an extraterrestrial object that was worshipped on some higher level of reality by demigods, and that it came to Earth about 120 million years ago, and that a temple was constructed to house it, and then it was lost. The temple was covered by jungles and floods and sands. And then some time ago, a king was traveling through that area and he went to sleep in a jungle, and in a dream he got a vision of this buried sacred image, and he excavated it and built a new temple. So, and that's the temple that's standing there today. But if you know the history of it, you'll understand its temples have been built at that location, housing this sacred image for millions and millions of years, going all the way back to about 120 million years ago. So I think that place, it should be on the map. It should be as famous as the Giza pyramids.
Right.
But I think you are right in that sense, that there is evidence there. There are structures that should be known all over the world as evidence for extreme human antiquity and contacts with extraterrestrial beings, in addition to the sacred nature of these places.
Well, when we talk about the Bhakti Veda and the Vimanas and these extraordinary visions and writings that are very technical, when I say visions, things that they were seeing and reporting on, of an extreme technical nature, right? It can't be fantasy or imagination. It's based on reality. And when you read those, and you've read all of them, what does that tell you? Was it just fiction? Was it fantasy and storytelling? Or was this based on something that they were seeing and witnessing?
No, I think absolutely it's based on things that were witnessed. And the proof of it is people, thousands of years later, are still witnessing these things. Modern UFO researchers, when we look at their observations of extraterrestrial craft, they appear to be manifesting the same characteristics as the descriptions of these craft that are given in these ancient Sanskrit writings. For example, there's one account in the Bhagavad Purana, which is one of these ancient writings, of a spacecraft that was used by a king named Shalva to attack a city named Dwarka. And there's still a city named Dwarka in northwestern India. And this King Shalva, he got this aircraft from the engineer of the forces of darkness in the universe. In other words, since the beginning of time, there's been a struggle in the universe between, you could say, the forces of darkness, the forces of light, the forces of good, the forces of evil. There's always been a struggle, a conflict going on. And this King Shalva was more or less on the dark side. So he, to use in his attack on the city of Dwarka, he got this aircraft, this spacecraft, from the engineer of the extraterrestrial beings on the side of the forces of darkness. And it's said that when he attacked the city of Dwarka with this craft he got from this extraterrestrial source, the craft would appear several places simultaneously. And this is something that we see in modern military technology, that say when you have an aircraft or a missile warhead coming down to attack a city or a country, it's set up, it's designed to have decoy warheads or false radar images to confuse the defenders on the ground. So that's something that's there in modern military technology, and apparently this craft had that same ability to project false images of itself to confuse the defenders who were trying to shoot it down. And it said that its flight path was very erratic. It was like a butterfly, flying in the wind.
Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then this craft also had the ability to project holographic images of, say, soldiers or things like that, which again is something that we see in modern times, the ability to project holographic images of human beings.
I've read a few of these stories, and when I hear the skeptics or the critics when they talk about the way that the way that the texts are written, that we are interpreting it in a modern sense, but when I read them, they read like I'm not interpreting anything. The story is exactly how it was written. It's a fantastic...
Yeah, absolutely. In my lectures, I put up on the screen the original Sanskrit words, and translate them word for word, for people so they can see I'm not adding anything to what's in the text.
Right.
It's actually what's being described.
Now,
and I think the fact that these ancient descriptions match what modern UFO observers are actually seeing and reporting kind of confirms to me that we're talking about something real that was observed in ancient times and is still being observed today.
Do you have any idea when some of these Sanskrit texts were written? When you say ancient, are we talking 1,000 years BC? We're talking 5,000, 20,000? When you say ancient, what kind of timetable are we looking at?
Well, we're talking about things that originally existed in oral form and have been transmitted from generation to generation over millions of years,
right?
But which have been set down in writing. According to the text, they were set down in writing about 5,000 years ago and have been transmitted in human society in written form since that time.
See, and that's
we're talking about texts that in oral form have a very, very long history going back millions and millions of years, but which have been only recently set down in written form.
Yeah, because when we're looking at 3,000 BC, 4,000 BC, 5,000, the Bronze Age, Stone Age man, basically coming out of the last modern ice age, and they are witnessing the stuff that they should be witnessing is foraging for seeds, right? That's what they're out there witnessing. They shouldn't be witnessing mechanical flying machines and flying cities. That wasn't part of the imagination back then.
Or what to speak of real cities, because these writings describe, at least 5,000 years ago, cities on Earth that had contact with extraterrestrial beings and things of that sort. It's kind of a strange thing to invent.
Yeah, or plasma weapons, or these huge, fire exploding,
or weapons resembling modern nuclear weapons.
That's right.
These writings describe a weapon called a Brahmastra, and the effect is like, it's described millions of suns all being present together in the same place. It's interesting that the physicist who was in charge of the American program to develop the atomic bomb during World War II was a student of the ancient Sanskrit writings of India. And when the first atomic bomb was tested at Alamogordo, New Mexico, in 1945, he was present in a bunker and saw it go off. And he began reciting texts from these ancient Sanskrit writings about it's like millions of suns all together in one place, causing death and destruction. And you know, he was very much aware of these ancient writings. And he was asked by a reporter, what was it like to be present during this first atomic bomb explosion at Alamogordo? And he said, the first in modern times.
It's an amazing situation in India, and if we take things, and you and I were talking about this earlier today about their, which you just mentioned here, their freedom of thought when it comes to ET or the age of civilization or reincarnation and the age of everything. That's their culture, and they are okay with that. Over here, man, it just seems like we're beating our head against the wall sometimes.
Well, of course, even there, they have an education system that was imposed upon them by the British when they ruled the country for a couple of centuries. So if you go to their universities and colleges and schools, you're going to get the same ideas that are being promoted in the schools and colleges and universities in the West. So it's kind of a similar situation where here in the West, in the United States, for example, most people in the general population accept things that are quite different than what is being taught in the schools and colleges. It's the same in India as well. Although the people may have as part of their culture some of these ideas about the presence of life elsewhere in the universe, higher beings, extreme human antiquity, going back vast periods of time. In the schools and colleges and universities, they're exposed to the same kinds of ideas that are presented in our scientific institutions and educational institutions.
I can see that. I'm looking at our studio clock here, Michael, and we're going to run out of time here in 4 minutes. Before we get there, can I get you to hang on for another 10 minutes after this break to handle some more last-minute questions that I have?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Because
I'd just like to also mention to your listeners that I'm going to be speaking about these things on Friday, March 10th.
This Friday.
At a conference in Los Angeles at the LAX Holiday Inn. The conference is called They Are Among Us. And I'm also going to be talking about these things April 7th and 9th on the East Coast at the Sheraton Hotel at the Free Your Mind conference in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And if people are interested in that, they can see the schedule link on my website, mcremo.com, mcremo.com. So if there are any listeners out there in those areas, they may want to drop in.
Yeah, Free Your Mind, that's turned into a pretty massive conference, and I don't think the East Coast gets enough conferences. It seems like everything goes on out here on the West Coast, and I get requests all the time, Jimmy, we need more stuff on the East Coast. But Free Your Mind is one of the premier events out there on the East Coast. So I encourage everybody to go to mcremo.com and click on the links. 5D is this week, and of course, Free Your Mind is in April. Now, leading into the break, I want to ask you this question. We were just talking about Giza, right? Why isn't, because you know religion, you've studied religion. Why isn't the pyramids or Giza or the Sphinx mentioned in the Bible? I don't understand that. Moses is there. He's hanging out with the pharaohs. Let my people go, right? He's that. Why aren't these objects mentioned in the Bible? Do you have any idea?
Well, I can't say I'm a very expert biblical scholar. I always thought, I saw the movies, with Charlton Heston and all that, and I thought, okay, the pyramids are there. They must be mentioned in the Bible.
Right.
But they're not, you're telling me.
Right. No, they're not. They're simply not there. And you know what the other interesting, if you flip it over and you go to the opposite side, the Moses and the Jewish Exodus and all of that, the parting of the Red Sea and the plagues, none of that is mentioned in the Egyptian text, right? So it's weird. They have these two significant stories on both sides, but neither is mentioned in the each other's text. I don't understand why.
Well, that happens too. Like the kind of evidence that I talk about in Forbidden Archaeology isn't mentioned in the textbooks today, so go figure.
Yeah, right. Okay, we're going to take a break here in just a second, and when I come back, I do want to address a couple of things about Giza. Not specifically Giza, but how old it is and how it backs up to Göbekli Tepe and the significance of Göbekli Tepe today. And that's what I would like to talk about next. And we'll do a little bit of overtime right now with Michael Cremo. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Michael Cremo, the Forbidden Archaeologist. You can check him out this Friday, the LAX Holiday Inn 5D Conference. And then in April, the Free Your Mind Conference out on the East Coast. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter,
but listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my... It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave Moisture Control Units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to jimmychurchradio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at jimmychurchradio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Michael Cremo, the forbidden archaeologist. It just sounds correct. The forbidden archaeologist. It just sounds like you're rolling that rock uphill, right? So I wanted to ask you really quickly about when my eyes look at the Sphinx, it just doesn't look 5,000 years old. It doesn't. It looks really, really old. And when I think about the pyramids of Giza, I think it's some of the best examples of something that wasn't built at 3000 BC, because 3000 BC, 2650 BC, we are talking about Stone Age man, and they want us to believe that it was built with copper chisels, stone hammers, and ropes. And I don't see that. It is an example of a technology that is much, much older than that, and it was another civilization, and quite possibly the Egyptians just inherited it. That's what I see. What's your take on what's going on?
Well, it's an interesting question. I have to say, by way of introduction, I'm not personally a pyramid researcher. And, alternative history is a big field. There are some researchers who are dealing with the more recent spans of history, the past 10, 20, 30, 40,000 years. And there are others like myself who are dealing with the deep history of the human race going back many, many millions of years. But although my focus is on archaeological evidence for extreme human antiquity going back millions of years, I'm still interested in these other aspects of alternative history, like the Sphinx and the pyramids. And over the years, when I've spoken at conferences, some of the other speakers have been personalities like Robert Schoch, the geologist who demonstrated that the weathering of the Sphinx and the Sphinx enclosure indicates that it was put up at a time when there was massive rainfall in that part of the Sahara. And, I've also spoken at the same conferences as Robert Bauval, for example, who's studied the pyramids and shown that they have alignments to constellations showing they were erected at least 11 or 12,000 years ago. So I'm kind of familiar with some of the alternative research that's been done, kind of in the same way that other listeners have, as I said, it's not my main focus of research, and I can't speak with absolute authority about it, but I'm familiar with the work that personalities like John Anthony West and Robert Bauval and Robert Schock have done on these matters, and I find it personally myself very convincing. Other researchers who have looked into the pyramids are Chris Dunn, for example, who sees them as some kind of manifestation of a power plant or something. And, I'm aware of all of this. I'm not expert in evaluating all of the evidence, but from what I've heard from these other researchers and read of their works, I find the views that they're presenting that these are older than most archaeologists now believe, and that they may represent the remnants of a past worldwide civilization, kind of convincing myself, although I'd have to say that I'm kind of speaking as kind of a layman who's aware of these things rather than as someone who's deeply researched them myself.
What do you think is going on in Antarctica right now? With somebody that, like yourself, that has studied the possibilities of, civilization going back millions of years, a candidate for that would be Antarctica. And there's a lot of interest about what's going on down there. What do you think we're going to find? And do you think that would be evidence of a civilization 1 million or 2 million years old?
Well, as far as anything that I know personally about it, I find interesting, I think it was the Pyrrhus Rays map, which shows Antarctica as it existed. It shows an outline of Antarctica, but it's not the outline of the ice shelf. It's the outline of the land as it would have looked before the ice covered the area, which would be millions and millions of years ago. So I find that kind of fascinating, that there's a map of Antarctica that appears to have been based on knowledge that could have been gained only millions of years ago. And I think it's just generally accepted, even by modern science, that millions of years ago, that part of the world wouldn't have been covered by ice. It would have been a temperate area. So I have sometimes seen videos and other kinds of reports of discoveries in Antarctica. I can't say that they're verifiable. I don't know the status of them, but just theoretically speaking, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually archaeologists or other researchers were able to find somewhere under the ice evidence for a very ancient human presence going back millions of years. Such evidence is found on every other continent, so I wouldn't be surprised to find some of it in Antarctica. Maybe you're aware of reports that I haven't heard of. One thing I like about coming on a show like this is I often learn things that I didn't previously know. So what kind of reports are you talking about?
Well,
Jimmy?
see, and what's interesting here is it goes both ways, Michael. You're on this show and I'm learning. So there you go. I just watched, of all places, on Nova, I just watched a documentary of some archaeologists down in Antarctica doing a dig, where literally we're pulling up shovels full of rocks, right? And they're looking through the shovels as they're pulling up the rocks, and they find a fossil of a leaf, right? They're right there. And this is on Nova. This isn't, some crazy YouTube channel. This is a documentary on Nova. And there it is. And it's a leaf, and that there's no other explanation needed at that point. So it was obviously temperate. It was obvious vegetation and life was there before this 2 miles of ice. And
right. I think that's generally accepted. That's,
right.
A generally accepted idea among paleontologists and geologists.
I think that there's going to be something breaking soon. I would have thought that Göbekli Tepe was enough for us to go, well, obviously it didn't start in ancient Sumer or Mesopotamia or Egypt at 3000 BC, that there was organization in agriculture and government and cities and quarries and art and everything at 10,000 BC with Göbekli Tepe, and that was a game changer. For you, what's it going to take to start to rewrite the textbooks and start to see a paradigm shift? What is it going to take?
I think what it's going to take is some changes in the education system. It seems that the supporters of the orthodox scientific ideas have managed to convince governments to give them a monopoly in the education system so that only their ideas are taught and all other ideas are excluded, which has the effect of marginalizing them or delegitimizing them. I would say that the education system and its curriculum should reflect the diversity of opinion that's actually there in even the scientific world. Because there are scientists who oppose the Darwinian theory of evolution. There are scientists like Dr. Robert Schoch who has some different ideas about the recent history of civilization. He's a professor at Boston University, or at least was until fairly recently. And, he has these ideas about Göbekli Tepe and the Sphinx and other aspects of civilization having an earlier origin than some scientists are now prepared to accept. So I think these minority views should be represented in the curriculum, just like different other minority views are reflected in the curriculum. Like, if the government had a policy that the only religion that could be mentioned in a textbook about American history is Christianity, there would be protests.
Right.
People would be saying, since the founding of this country, there has been a respect for religious freedom, and representatives of all faiths have been here. Maybe they're not the majority, they're minorities, but the minorities should also have their place in their curriculum. So I think it's the same in terms of these scientific ideas, which may be held by minorities of scientists today. They aren't the mainstream majority views, but I think they should still be represented, and then let the students make up their own minds about these things. Let's say 90% of the archaeologists accept the standard ideas, and there are a few who are accepting alternative ideas. All right, well, give 90% of the textbook pages in classroom time to those who support the majority views, but don't artificially exclude the views of the minority.
Well, you do speak at colleges. You're invited to do that, major universities.
I do that. But that's extracurricular.
It's not part of the curriculum.
It's not part of the curriculum.
But you also speak at companies and corporations. What's the intention to bring you in to speak at a major university or a major corporation if they're not open to those views? I mean, do they immediately after you leave go, okay, well, that was fun, but now, you know what I mean? Why bring you in if they're not open-minded?
I think there's a certain amount of openness to having alternative ideas presented at a certain level, but in terms of the actual curriculum, if we're talking about the educational institutions, the supporters of the dominant theories have convinced governments through their education ministries and education departments to give them an absolute monopoly and exclude the other ideas. They can't be excluded completely, like you said. You know, I can give a lecture at a university. I can give a talk at a scientific conference. I can speak at Google headquarters. That was an interesting example. They have an interesting policy whereby employees can invite authors to speak at Google headquarters in Mountain View, California. So a couple of years ago, some employees arranged for me to be invited, and a lecture was scheduled. But other employees tried to get Google to cancel the lecture. You know, they thought, this is a science-based company. How can we have somebody like Michael Cremo, who represents, what they call pseudoscience according to their way of looking at things? How can we have such a person here in this company, which is supposed to be based on science? But I think they have a very limited conception of what science actually is. They want to have a science that doesn't consider all of the facts relevant to a particular problem and make decisions based on an incomplete set of facts.
Right.
So I don't think that's real. To me, that's the real pseudoscience.
And well, obviously the talk did happen.
It did.
And how did it go? And afterwards, did you change some minds, do you think?
Well, it's hard for me to read all the minds because I don't meet everybody who because the show was videotaped, the lecture was videotaped. It's still available on the web. Google has a YouTube channel called Authors at Google, and my lecture is still there. And plus, in addition to the people who came and actually heard me in the auditorium when I spoke, it was broadcast throughout the whole facility. So I don't know everyone who actually heard what I had to say and what they thought. But the people who were there asked some very nice questions, very good questions, the kinds of questions that an intelligent person would ask, and they seemed to be satisfied with the answers. So, I look at the whole situation like, I expect there to be opposition. I expect there to be people who don't agree with me, people who will hear me, and people who won't hear me. It's just the way things are. I'm just doing what I think is right in my circumstance. That's all that I can do. I think that's all that any of us can do, is speak the truth as we know it and let people make up their minds about it.
Michael, I want to thank you. Another amazing conversation here with you tonight. I want to thank you for all that you do. You know that. Our audience absolutely is thankful for everything that you do. And I do recommend to everybody, just go to mcremo.com. He'll be speaking this Friday here in Los Angeles at LAX, and then he'll be out in April at the Free Your Mind Conference on the East Coast. Michael, thank you for everything. You get that new book done, come back and visit us, and thank Lori for us, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
You're the best. Thank you so much. Michael Cremo, everybody. Again, mcremo.com. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com. Click, and his schedule for events are right there. Thank you so much, Michael. He is the best. And in my journey that I have taken here and shared with all of you, I've let myself and my personality lay right out there for the world to see. And Michael Cremo, for years and years and years, has been somebody that I've looked up to and I've needed for guidance. He's the guy for that. When we are talking about outside of the box and putting together and putting forward these ideas that for some of us seem extreme, but also, and this is the truth, when you start to look at what he is suggesting to us, it starts to answer so many questions that we have difficulty with. And that's the thing. Things get really, really simple when we start to look at the way that Michael has applied it and presented it to us. Forbidden Archaeology is one of those books that changed things. And I will strongly suggest this right now. You have our little circle of truth seekers. There is us before Michael Cremo and us after Michael Cremo. Michael Cremo has changed things for us. I meant to ask Michael this. What if the world was different? What if everybody out there, science and archaeologists and biologists and thinkers, archaeologists, paleontologists, what if they all were like Michael? What if they were? Would the world be a better place? And my answer to that is no. Now, before you jump on me, just listen. We need to have the both extremes. We need to have the checks and balances of life. So we need mainstream science. We need that. We need all those meatheads. We need that, and then we need the hardcore skeptics on one side, and then we need the free thinkers on the other, and we work together. So there are those out there that will go, Michael, hold on a minute. Okay, just slow down. And then you have Michael and those like Michael pushing the other side, going, you guys need to think a little bit differently. And that's how it works. Because if it was all Michael or all personalities like Michael, it would spin out of control. It would go the other direction. Or if it was just all skeptics and hardcore science and that, like he says, that orthodox way of thinking, then we wouldn't get anywhere either. We need both. And that's the truth. I meant to ask Michael about that. But that's how I look at the world. Okay? All right. Thank you so much, Michael Cremo. Amazing conversation. Now, I've got to get to a couple of things really quick in the news. One of them is this. The anonymous nature of the search engine Tor is in question now after the Department of Justice dropped charges in a child pornography case to protect details of how they hacked Tor. Now, remember, Tor is 90% government funded, by the way. All right, that there's no disputing that. Tor, the onion rot, that entire technology is government funded. All right, and it was government by design. IPs of visitors using the anonymity software to access child pornography sites were identified using this hack. Now, quoting from a federal prosecutor, Annette Hayes, she said, disclosure is not currently an option. And it was against the United States against Jay McCaud. Hayes said that the dismissal without prejudice would allow for future charges when the government might be in a position to provide the requested discovery. The accused man, Jay McCaud, M-I-C-H-A-U-D, was arrested in 2015, suspected of visiting the child pornography website Playpen via the Tor browser. Despite the alleged anonymity of Tor, he was identified after the FBI took control of Playpen for nearly 2 weeks. The FBI used a form of malware known as the Network Investigative Technique to track him and 135 other suspects who are also facing prosecution today. When users logged into the Playpen website, an NIT program would send communications to their computer which would trigger identifying data being relayed back to the FBI. Now, I'm talking about, this is Tor. This is Tor. Mouse movements, clicks, keyboard, everything, IP addresses. There was nothing anonymous about this. All right? How NITs operate was not fully disclosed, prompting his defense attorney to request access to their source code. Now, this is my opinion. His attorney is a piece of crap. That's first off. Everybody's entitled to a good defense. He was guilty of being on Playpen, him and the other 135. And to get this guy off on that, me, if I'm a defense attorney, I recuse myself. I'm not going to defend some pedophile, child porn surfing dude. He's not worthy of a defense, right? And that's the issues that I have with it. But he was able to get this dropped without prejudice. Absolutely amazing case. But what it does signal to everybody else out there, Tor is no longer anonymous. Think about that. Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch is back on the market with an asking price of $67 million. The 2,700-acre property in Santa Barbara, California, has been renamed the Sycamore Valley Ranch. The listed price represents a significant cut from the $100 million it was on the market for last year. In addition to the 12,500 square foot main residence and the 3,700 square foot pool house, the listing boasts a separate building with a 50-seat movie theater and a dance studio. Other features on the ranch are the Disney-style train station, a firehouse, and a barn. But check this. Jackson sold the ranch to Colony Capital just before his death for just $22.5 million. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I want to thank Michael Cremo for coming in tonight. Absolutely fascinating conversation. His website is mcremo.com. You can get there by jimmychurchradio.com. Just click on the links. He's speaking this weekend here in Los Angeles and in April out on the East Coast of New York. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew, The Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Andrew Collins. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.